Well, hi there, and welcome to this week's edition of Feeling Smarter. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Tim Miller. G'day, Tim. How are you?
Yeah, going well, Aaron. How are you going? Happy new financial year to you.
Yes, it is the new financial year, and probably one of the most controversial aspects of on a regulatory front was the ATO's revised view in 2013/5 around when a pension commences and ceases, and specifically where the pension fails the pension standard. Now, this is a topic that we spoke about 12 or so months ago, but the impact of this revised view really comes to fruition now, where we have individuals that have not, say, met the minimum pension for the previous year. So, Tim, can I get you to elaborate a little bit on what that revised view is and the impact that we will see from that for that 30 June 2025 financial year?
Yeah, look, I guess the first thing to recognise is that there's shortfalls and then there's shortfalls,
Yep.
and so we have the commissioner's discretion, or well, the I guess the compliance approach where if your pension shortfall is less than 1/12, and it's the first time you've had a shortfall, then you can use the general powers of administration to self-assess that the shortfall doesn't exist, as soon as you recognise that shortfall, you effectively catch it up immediately, either by applying, say, the first payment from this current year to meet last year's liability, or you make an additional catch-up. I would always recommend making that additional catch-up because you want the July payment to really count towards July this year. So putting that aside, if you've got the shortfall that's beyond 1/12, or you've had shortfalls in previous years, then you can't apply that method, and in which instance you have subsequently failed the pension standard because you've failed to ensure that the annual pension liability has been paid. So in the Commissioner's view, the pension ceases for tax purposes back on the 1st of July of the year that you failed. It fails the pension standards on the 30th of June for transfer balance cap purposes. And then you have to make this conscious decision. Once you recognise that the pension has failed, you need to make a conscious decision to commute and then recommence your pension in order to enable you to be able to start claiming exempt current pension income again.
And that's really where the shift has come in the Commissioner's view, because ordinarily, if we failed that pension, it was an income tax issue, and there would kind of just be this reset on the 1st of July that would allow for that pension to continue. Whereas it now comes down to some key wording in there around the concept of ensuring that the pension would continue, and off the back of the ATO's definition and a case that they reference within that ruling, that ultimately they're saying now that on the basis you can't ensure that that pension will continue, there's going to need to be a formal commutation of that income stream. And naturally, that commutation can no longer occur at the end of that financial year, that it would in essence allow for full tax exemption in the subsequent year.
Yeah, that's right. And there's a lot of elements linked to all of this, and one of the key ones is obviously that point in time that you actually recognise that the minimum hasn't been paid. It's clearly why we give a lot of focus pre-30 June to ensuring people have satisfied their liability. But of course, circumstances occur, and people fail for all sorts of reasons. Some by choice, some just by accident. But accidents don't happen in the world of the Commissioner. You either have paid it or you haven't paid it.
Yeah.
And so really, it's just then a matter of saying, okay, well, we have to take our medicine, and that medicine is the loss of ECPI, and we have to act as quickly as we can to get the best benefit moving forward for our pensions.
Yeah, and this is where understanding the steps that need to take place are really important here, because I think I've seen, even people try and get a little bit cute with this, and even within the deed that, oh, well, there would be an auto commutation at that point in time. Well, I don't know how the trustee would know to automatically commit at that time if they would have actually or should have actually taken that minimum pension, and therefore they wouldn't have got into that problem in the first place. So just need to be conscious and quite conscious of the fact here that that decision that gets made is a formal commutation. So what we've done with our pension documents, and in particular around the commutation, is the fact that you see a failure under the pension standards. So there is a notification that the trustees have identified and then advised the member of that issue. Now, I know we talk about wearing the same hat here or wearing different hats, the same person, but there is a flow that we need to undertake here, and that is, one, recognise, two, advise, and then that member needs to make that decision. And any commutation, as we know, within that ruling needs to be prospective. So thinking that we can go back to the 1st of July in this instance, if we are many months ahead, is not going to cut it in the Commissioner's eyes. And this is where that loss of tax exemption can expand beyond the 12 months that we've had previously. So getting that stuff right is crucial, but then once that member's made that conscious decision, we would then go into the fact that we are starting a fresh pension. And if we've done a lot of planning work throughout that period of time, historically, well, we may have contaminated some of that, because that money is ultimately going to go back into a single accumulation interest as well.
Yeah, and you know, there's other things to contemplate as well with all of this, Aaron. That is that all those pension payments that you did actually make in the previous year are now to be treated as lump sum. Now, the preferred method, I know from an association point of view, is to treat all of those lump sum payments based on the original pension proportions, tax-free, taxable, but there has not been a definitive position from the tax office as to how to treat those amounts. So you almost have to still assume the worst case scenario there. So assume the worst and hope for the best with regards to how the Commissioner is going to address it. I know that there's some outstanding matters with regards to again, reconciling the previous year where there is the failure, to ensure that you can then move ahead with a clean slate. But of course, you know, once you've failed, then any existing accumulation interest will merge with that pension interest, and that will have ramifications for the recommencement. It will have ramifications from a transfer balance cap point of view, from a reporting requirement piece. So there'll be the gap between the 30 June failing the standards reporting and the recommencement reporting, and what does that mean for cap space and measuring against the transfer balance cap as well.
Yeah, so it's no longer, as we said, a straightforward process. So where historically we've looked at this in a tax sense from the eyes of the Commissioner, and really saying, well, look, CIS and trust law have a very different view. We're looking at a contract here. The ATO's acknowledged that throughout this ruling, but they've also said, we're not going to allow you to get that ECPI unless you formally stop that pension. And that's the real kicker here that people need to be aware of, and then making sure that you ultimately document that accordingly as well.
Absolutely.
So, well, the only other thing, Tim, I guess this will be a topic that we'll be talking about as well in our next masterclass, which is our SMSF annual compliance masterclass. So if this is a topic of interest, we strongly suggest that you come along. It is scheduled for the 26th of August. It is the first time we'll be using our annual compliance masterclass with our new Cooper family and their various self-managed super funds. So once again, Tim, thank you for your time today.
Always a pleasure.
And we look forward to you joining us for our next edition of Feeling Smarter. Have a great rest of the week. Bye for now.
See you all.